Namaste, good evening, and a very warm welcome to all the viewers of Bharat TV. Viewers, the Hindu Parents Network, not sure if you have heard about it, but today you will learn a lot about this. Hindu Parents Network, which is a vibrant and educational platform, and it's aimed at connecting Hindu families and providing a support system for parents who are navigating the challenges of raising children in a diverse world, especially in the Western world. So this network, it serves as a platform for educating, sharing resources and cultural values, while we are still fostering a sense of belonging and collaboration among all our members. So, in this program, we will explore various topics which are relevant to this Hindu parenting. It could be related to educational choices, cultural traditions, and wellness practices. So, engaging discussions, through these engaging discussions, we are going to feature some experts and some experienced parents who are going to share insights and tips on how to instill strong values in our children and maintain cultural heritage in our next generation. So, viewers, please join us as we celebrate the richness of Hindu culture and empower parents to raise confident, resilient, and culturally grounded children. And we are very proud to present Sukanya Sharma from Hindu Parents Network, who has done a phenomenal job in spreading awareness about the roots and core teachings of Sanatan Dharma. We also have with us Yagnesh Patel, who leads Hindu Parents Network as its national director. He provides direction for its mission and activities, and he's deeply interested in parenting approaches and how Hindu Dharma is perceived and passed on to the next generation of Hindus. So please welcome to this show Sukanya Sharma ji and Yagnesh Patel ji. Very, very honored to have both of you in this show. So, while we start about how do we parent the Hindu way, let my first question be addressed to Yagnesh ji. So, my first question to you, Yagnesh ji, is what is Hindu Parents Network and what led to its formation?
First of all, namaste to all your viewers. And to introduce the organization, I would say that it's Hindu Parents Network, or we call it HPN in short form, is a volunteer-driven initiative that supports Hindu family, diaspora Hindu families, through education, advocacy, and community. So we help parents understand the challenges that children are going to face while being raised here. And we also equip parents with tools and resources so they can respond, and uh, as well as we create spaces where kids can learn Hindu worldview joyfully and authentically. So, all in all, if we need to summarize our initiative, we want to ensure that every Hindu child growing up here in diaspora, they have confident, informed, and grounded in their dharma.
Confident, informed, and grounded in their dharma. Yes, very important words which I'm sure every parent wants to hear. From a Hindu perspective, right, what unique challenges do Hindu parents in the diaspora face today?
Yeah,
That maybe our parents' generation didn't.
yeah. So I think we all at least recognize that it is completely different age, and the changes we see around is something making all parents worried that what's going to happen for their children when they grow up on many front. So I would say first is we also need to think from the cultural and dharma perspective. What is the difference while raising the children in back in Bharat, back in India, and how it's going to work out here in diaspora. So that understanding is very critical for everyone to understand. Just to give you example, while children are being raised in Bharat, they have very implicit way of absorbing culture and dharma practices around them. So they will see the festival celebration wide in open. They will get to know from their schools because they get the holidays, and also there might be in community and also cultural marker, right, where they will witness those very frequently around them. And same goes for media. There, the cultural and dharmic aspect, they will see many interaction around them. Versus here, where these things are not obvious, so they will not get this environment. So what it we see that here in this case the parents will have to create or make a conscious effort to create environment like that. So that I would say that the biggest challenge we are facing here. And then of course we don't have big community support as we have back home. We don't have a you can say the strong temple ecosystem. Or you can also point out that the changes around us happening where children are our teens are spending so much time on devices and social media, so they don't have any other cultural or time left for cultural practices and conversation. So further, if I need to also add the environment where they are being, they will come across in school where they will have a peer pressure to fit in, right? So they will imbibe certain kind of shameness for their Hindu identity, and they will be gradually tend to discard the Hindu identity altogether. So these are the unique challenges I would say diaspora Hindu parents are facing.
And I think one point that you brought about, that these days kids, they spend a lot of time on social on media. There's the social media, of course. There'll be a group, 5 or 6 of them sitting together. I have seen the Indian kids, and they are addicted to Instagram and just posting whatever they are doing on Instagram. And though it may not be unique to the kids who have Hindu parents, but it's still kind of, it troubles me to think that, how it may be impacting negatively their perception of themselves as a Hindu. So maybe, like, either Yagnesh ji or Sukanya ji, whosoever, can answer this question.
Yeah, so Kanyaji can, I think she can in better position.
So, first of all, namaste again, and thank you for having us. Going to your question regarding spending so much time, and what is it that the child then internalizes as how they should be looked at, especially around the middle school age when they're starting to form those connections, and their center of attention isn't mom and dad and the family, and that which it is during elementary school years. As they get beyond and they spread their wings, which we want them to do, making sure, I think, that they have a good grounding in dharma, as we're talking about that as Hindu parents, and the culture from the beginning helps. I think one of the things that parents before didn't have to worry, like my parents didn't have to worry, and I grew up here from the age of 11 onwards, was we didn't have the access to all of this information. And we think that information is one way, things coming in towards us only, what we search. But there are also things that parents didn't have to worry about before, not through social media and things like that, electronic devices, was what is the information going from the child outwards. So I think that is something that parents need to become aware of, where there are pitfalls and dangers that may lie for our children. even though they look like they're physically sitting at home and on their electronic device, you don't know where's the connection that is being made on that device. Are they speaking to other people in chat rooms where there could be things that are lurking that you don't want them to fall into? Those are some of the things I think that parents didn't have to worry about before. It was more like if our children were playing outside, what if they go beyond the block? What do I have to worry about? So let me tell my children about, stranger danger and things like that. Beyond that, also the other thing that you asked was what happens and how do children imbibe what's going on? We know that there's so much information that is being bombarded towards them that if they don't have that grounding and that sense of identity of who they are, they might want to emulate, so and so or this influencer or that influencer. And so I think, being that parent who's conscious and, aware of what's going on and knows their child, helping them to find that identity and the markers that who I am and I am different than the people coming up on my Instagram feed, let's say. And that's okay. And I have value to add to everything that's going on around me. I think that sense of identity is very important to instill in our kids. And I think Yagnesh will probably bring up the same thing. If we don't, look out for who is forming our children's identity, then we lose that, chance that we have to instill the values that we want in them.
Very nicely put, Sukanya ji, because it's like what we are saying that, that sense of identity, which is what Yagnesh ji also brought up, that it is for them to feel comfortable, even though you are living in a different culture, but you are still comfortable with who you are. So that brings me to the next question, which is for you, Yagnesh, because all this is, again, around conscious parenting. So again, from a Hindu perspective, what does conscious parenting mean for the diaspora parents?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's where we always start with saying that only parent can, they are in position to make a difference here, because rest of the things, no matter where they want to outsource their responsibility, it's not going to perfectly work out for children. So in that case, the conscious parenting for Hindu parents will look like that. The first, they have to identify that it requires a lot more effort and something beyond just academic and professional success. So they cannot just make sure that their children get the perfect education, schools, and they are very much, professionally successful. That's not the only criteria. The second thing is, of course, we talk about many factor have changed since previous generation, and the drawback and limitation the environment is placing on our children, right? Whether social media or even the distorted teaching happening in school, right? So those drawback and limitation, parent has to be in a position to understand that this is happening. And now once they identify these two factors, that okay, this is happening, now their effort to create an environment and community where they can do intentional and conscious effort to make sure that the value and identity they want to preserve in their next generation are taken care by their efforts. So I would say that's what I would say the conscious parenting mean for diaspora Hindu parents.
Yes, and the other thing, Yagnesh and Sukanya ji, that I have seen in parents, that especially the parents who, in the Indian diaspora, the focus on academics is to this extent where they even they want to avoid kids with lower grades to not mix with, their own kids, and which to me seems like a very, very narrow-minded approach. And you are instilling the feelings of, actually, you're not really setting them up for success. You're not
Absolutely.
setting them up for success. You are trying to tell them that, hey, you know what? This, your identity is just about grades. And I think I understand that, as immigrants, we have to work hard. We have to prove ourselves in some other field, but, we are more than that. So our value system tells us that we are not just here to eat bread and sleep and go for a job. Even animals do that. you know we don't want to lead a deluxe animal life. We are souls, we are human beings. So anyways, I'm not trying to give a lecture, but these are some of the thoughts that have been bugging me as well for a long time, which is why I wanted to have this interview, and I wanted to ask these questions to both of you. My next question is that, agreed, we have to help these kids understand our culture and all of that. But many parents and quite a few of our friends, they worry that if I push culture too hard, my kids are going to rebel, and if I don't, they are going to lose it. So there's a very thin line. How do we balance this?
Absolutely right. I mean, the whatever we are discussing here, teaching and passing down the heritage, it cannot be in a forceful manner, right? The goal is neither imposition nor hands off, right? Because you cannot just take the things for granted and just say that, okay, my kids, they don't like certain thing, they don't like cultural practices at all, so, or they don't like to celebrate our festival at all, so I will just give up, right? And just let them be, right? So it has to be a healthy balance. So in that case, we always quote this in our workshop, that we have to be firm on core values but gentle on rest of the things, right? So that includes certain cultural practices, celebration. You have to keep that going in the family no matter what, right? For example, last month, or before that, in October, last Diwali, we had a campaign where we asked parents to take a day off, right, and celebrate with kids. So, something like that, right, where you are not forcing, but you are making kids enjoy the celebration, right? You are making that day special for them compared to rest of the festival in the year. So it is passing down in a manner where kids, it has to be passed down in a manner where kids also enjoy things and they imbibe things. Eventually they come to a conclusion that this is what giving me strength and sense of purpose and identity, versus something which my parents want to impose on me. The second aspect is, of course, the age is very critical factor here. Many time we are coming across cases where uh, uh, parents did not introduce anything related to culture at the right age. I would say very small kids supposed to go through some of the activities and uh, things we are discussing here. But if they haven't done any effort and then they try to um, ignite the interest in teenagers, right, then that can also backfire. So we have to just make a conscious choice at that point, saying that at what age we should introduce the culture. If you have missed the boat, then of course at the teenage year there has to be a different approach.
Absolutely. And Sukanya ji, would you like to add something to what Yagnesh you just said?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what exactly Yagnesh was talking about uh, in this question, as well as what you asked previously about conscious parenting. I think the core of what we try to explain to parents, um, conscious parenting is about really looking at yourself as a child would be looking at you. Are you exemplifying those things that you want your child to imbibe? If you are not doing it, you can't turn around and expect the child to do it. All of a sudden, when you say one day, oh, well, why are you doing this? We have Diwali to go to, or we're going to so and so's house to do this puja. And if they have not seen you do that, and they're distracted by something else with their friends, they're going to push back. So I think being conscious is part of that. What is my child seeing me do in the daily life? Am I doing some of those things like puja, if that's what you want to instill in them, and understanding what is having a connection with your Isht Devta, or what does living a dharmic life mean? So if they see you do that seamlessly day in, day out, they are little sponges. They'll absorb all of that. And it's going to start to become second nature for them. So I think being conscious of that, like Yagnesh had initially said, back in Bharat, we didn't have to think of that, because you're surrounded by everybody who's doing similar things. So it will kind of come into you. But over here, we have to make that extra effort.
So, viewers, I just hope you're noting these points, viewers, because at least making some mental notes. That conscious parenting, I'm sure all of you have these questions that when we don't have those cultural atmosphere around us of Diwali and all those other things happening in every other house in the neighborhood, how do we help our kids? And as she said, taking maybe a day off for Diwali and going to pujas and help them understand that, and then ourselves imbibing those values. Example speaks more than anything else. So very good points, Sukanya ji. And my next question is, let me ask my next question to you. What are some common identity struggles that the Hindu kids share with you? From elementary school through high school, and what are you doing to address those issues?
That is a very, very important question, I think, as parents, because, one thing I always say to other parents and my friends is we spend so much of our life in a family, when you have a family, parenting, but no one trains you for parenting. So the parenting training really comes from you as a child observing your parents, what they did, because eventually now that I'm older, I will think back and say, oh, wait a minute, I used to get upset when my mom used to do this, but I catch myself doing it now. So I know I was absorbing those things. And especially at moments of, let's say, higher stress, or there's so many things that are going on, we fall into this automatic kind of behavior and learned behavior. And we tend to go back to what our parents did. And so when you have parents who parented you surrounded by dharma, surrounded by your culture, imbibing, the cultural aspects and how you celebrate and what you're celebrating, while not completely cutting you off from, the culture that you are here surrounded by, it helps for that child to then seamlessly kind of go back and forth. Because one of the things that children talk about is, and more so when middle schoolers, is that they have to kind of navigate two cultures when they step out of the house and they are at school and with their friends. And depending on what part of the US you're in, if you are lucky enough to be on the East Coast, where New York, New Jersey, those areas where there are larger diaspora present, then you're luckier. You're going to see more kids in your classroom who look like you, who you also are from Indian background. But if you are somewhere in the Midwest, some other parts of the nation where you're maybe the one kid in your class, or maybe one or two kids in your entire school are from Bharat, then it really puts a pressure on that child also to navigate that. And I think as parents, really having that understanding so that you can empathize with your child when your child comes home and they're, let's say they're talking about, I want to go to the prom. Do I ask my mom? Do I not ask my mom? What will dad say? Those are some of the things that, I have, especially girls will come up and ask about those things, or have had girls discussing that. And some of the other things are, I have, during our online classes, there was one child who kind of, I don't know if he realized it, he was doing something in his classroom and another kid was having trouble with the computer. And so the other kid just turned to him and goes, oh, let's say Ajay, he's supposed to know this. He's Indian. He should know how to use, he should be very easily getting around computers and things like that. So, and this child, he was like, I don't know why people think that. Not everybody is, into computers just because I'm Indian. They think I'm like this. So those are some of those things, that identification, and those types of things are what children have brought up. And so as parents, you ask, what do you do to address that? I think being good listeners, being present, being good listeners, where the child knows they have your attention for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or the end of the day when they're about to fall asleep. I often tell, in my practice, I would always tell, because what my training was, allowed me to talk to both parents and kids. And sometimes it's easier for kids to interact, ask questions, and not feel the pressure of the parents looking at you when it's done, where you're sitting next to each other or you're about to go to sleep, the lights are off and you're still talking and you're in your kid's room or laying next to them. And just having a conversation at that time allows them to then open up and just being a listener for as long as you need to, so they feel that they're being heard. I think as a parent, that's important, or as a teacher.
It's very important, and that is going to bring me to the second part of this question, which is actually on bullying, stereotyping. Audience, we'd like to take a small break here, and we are going to come back. This is a question which plagues all of you. I've heard a lot of parents asking me about how their kid should behave in a manner that they are not stereotyped, or they have issues about bullying. So we'll be back after a short break, and please stay with us. Welcome back, parents. We are talking about parenting the Hindu way, and we have with us Sukanya Sharma, Yagnesh Patel. They are in the Hindu Parents Network, which was started by Kona. Yagnesh Patel ji is the director. Sukanya ji is the lead teacher. And they have actually answered some very, very important questions, which all of us as parents from the Indian diaspora have been looking for some answers, which we don't always find. They have talked about the unique challenges that Hindu parents in the diaspora face today. They have also talked about what is conscious parenting and whether or not we should push our culture too hard. And I am not going to summarize all of this because we have already talked about these things in detail. So please go back and watch our part one. So welcome back one more time, Yagnesh ji and Sukanya ji, to part two. And Sukanya ji, where I stopped last time was on bullying and stereotyping. So can you give an example of how bullying, stereotyping, or ignorance about Hindu dharma shows up in schools or online?
So I think it starts with what people don't know. So whatever they don't know, yet they hear, let's say in passing in social media or from other friends, and they don't understand it, they will make fun of it. And that's a pretty general kind of human attribute. What we don't understand, and it certainly doesn't match with whatever our own cultural practices may be, we tend to either minimize, make fun of it, or, pick on somebody else from that culture, pointing to that. And so things like on social media, my nieces have talked about how they have talked about caste, and the aspersions of caste will come up. whenever they are seeming to not get their way in the conversation with my niece or so, all of a sudden this casting comes up. Oh, sort of like you're the oppressors, and those things that things are being thrown about in social media against the diaspora. Sometimes, what our children may, depending on how strongly they identify with their culture and how comfortable they are with putting forward their their legacy, you may have a child who tries to then shift away from their Indian background or their Bharatiya background and sort of behave differently and try to become more and more what, quote unquote, some parents will say, oh, you're getting too westernized. And they might see that in their child because they're trying to remove themselves from that background. And so I think those are the times that if you are noticing something like that as a parent, become aware of that. Don't necessarily just kind of accuse them of being more westernized, this or that. There must be a reason that the child has had a change in their behavior or presenting differently. So be curious, like an investigator, and try to investigate by asking open-ended questions and letting the child lead the conversation when you both have time and can settle down and talk about things. And maybe you'll be able to tease out something and guide them at that point.
So, Yagnesh, if a child comes home upset about a comment on their religion, any comment on their gods or their food habits, what should a parent say or do first?
Yeah, I think we have to first differentiate whether that came from the regular teaching from teachers, or it is coming from their peer in informal discussion they are having, right? So that these are completely two different way of dealing things. If it is coming, of course, from a teacher in regular teaching, then we have a very formal process which we follow, saying that how the religion was taught, right? What aspect was distorted? Let's just document first that what exactly was taught, and then we also, it has to be in a respectful manner, right? So there is a way to work with the school district and teachers, saying that how the approach should be, where you are engaging with them and try to be collaborator rather than just trying to impose certain things on them. So with that approach, we take this forward and show them what is the reason that or what are the why are the reasons behind misrepresentation of this faith. Or probably the teacher, they don't understand that this was a misrepresentation, so they will have to be get educated by parents. And at that point, I think we can also help. We have engaged with at least 26 plus school districts in US and Canada, navigating the same challenges. And we also have a resources developed where if there are certain aspects of Hindu faith which are not being taught in a respectful manner, we can obviously give the resources developed by others or by us that the challenge or the address the core issues.
Right.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
no, and second part, I think if it is coming from peer, I think that comes under the bullying or stereotype or hate incident, right? And that should be addressed in a different manner, where we have to, of course, go through to school district engagement, where we have to report it, and rather than the common behavior we have seen from Indian and Hindu parents in diaspora, where they will say that their kids would, you know what, just forget about it, ignore it, and move on. We don't want to engage, or we don't want to raise this issue. Why? Just focus on your study, right? But this is both the teaching by school as well as the stereotyping and the behavior of bullying and the hate incidences. Those are very critical for not only for child to learn to respect their faith and stand up for their faith and culture and advocate for that, but also growing their skill as a leadership, right? To in the future they will come across certain decision making where they will either ignore it or raise, right? So these are the also a point where parents should take a decision to engage and also raise this issue with the school in appropriate manner.
Mhm. And you mentioned that with approximately 26 schools, you have already done that in US and in Canada. So when parents they notice something biased or inaccurate in a lesson, what practical steps do you recommend? They take with the teacher or with the school.
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing is the documenting, saying that many occasions we receive the complaint from parents, but they don't have documented what was being taught, or they don't have enough content to say to solidify what their initial position was, right? So in that case, it becomes very hard for us to approach school district and take this to the conclusion. So that has to be done, where documentation, proper documentation has to be done. And second thing is, rather than uh, taking as a confrontational manner, we have to go in a approach where you are collaborating with the school district. You are genuinely teaching them. In many cases, I would say most of the cases, we know that the teacher, they themselves, they don't know that this is misrepresentation, right? So then you have to show them why this is misrepresentation, right? So that is the second part of it. And third, then you come at the point they realize that okay, this was a misrepresentation, a distortion of a religion, and in fact it is going to create bias against Hindu Americans or Hindu Canadian. So in that case, we have to give them the proper resources which they can rely on to teach Hindu faith in their school district.
Yeah, so talking about proper resources, families who are discovering HPN for the first time. So, what are the main ways in which you support parents and children? Any classes, workshops, any advocacies that you do, any resources?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have three pillars for HPN. Education is, we would say, we started with that first pillar, education, where we wanted to let parents know, let community know what is happening with their kids, what is happening in schools regarding Hindu faith and Indian history teaching. So education is the first pillar we have, where we have a bunch of workshop, conscious parenting workshop, or the beautiful tree program camps, which we also host in terms of weekly classes for kids. So these are the very broad set of workshop camps and just regular weekly classes that we are offering through our platform. The second aspect is advocacy, where we mention about how parents feel not to engage with the school district because they are not comfortable or they haven't been through this exercise. So this is where we also help, where there are issues like curriculum bias or stereotyping or bullying or hate incidents. So those things we help parents to navigate through the school district and how to approach this, whom to talk, and talking points, as well as the resources I mentioned earlier. All of this we can help parents. And the third is, of course, we are a group of like-minded parents and network. So we have a community of like-minded parents who understand the need for this kind of platform, and at the same time we create resources where the example of one resource is we created last month, or before that, is the Diwali. So for Diwali, how to celebrate Diwali, for parents, what to do, and what are the art, craft, and the presentations or one pagers. Those are the resources we also create in, and also on many of the things, right? Just one resource is just presentation and reading material, but then the video material as well we have started offering.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Sukanya, would you like to add anything to what he said?
Absolutely. I'll just point to what we help in terms of what Yagnesh said about education, since I'm one of the teachers at the Hindu Parents Network. It's this wonderfully, very stringently researched, curated topics that we have that go beyond just what children may receive already from going to the temple or other classes that have been in the community for a while. And that is about the history. I think we are learning, and I was learning, for the first 11 years, how little I knew about our Hindu history, our ancient history of Bharat. The entire thing that sets up this wonderfully rich and diverse culture that we talk about and are part of, and how layered it is, how many different depth and how colorful it is, and how little children don't get enough of that here. And so when I came across Hindu Parents Network and I was luckily introduced to them during COVID, I just kind of laughed it all up and said, yes, I would love to be a teacher, because it was twofold. One, I wanted my child to be in the classes for the Beautiful Tree program. And the other was I wanted to learn. And it's interesting, sometimes when we're teaching our classes, we have weekly classes. Every quarter, we pick up a large topic that we focus on. And then once a week, we meet online and have our discussions and presentations from the teachers. And so we really look at the history, the ancient history, the medieval type of history, then also all the way into what happened in Bharat during partition, colonization, and all of that, and kind of engage the kids in conversation about how does this make you feel knowing our ancestors did all of this or had this hardship, because that's the connection that they need to have us help build so that they're connected to Bharat while they're halfway around the world. So, being able to do that, it's really something that attracted me to also learn about my own culture, but to pass it on. I think that passing on, I love that part of my work with the Hindu Parents Network. That's
absolutely, and you guys are doing a great job. So, if parents who are watching this did just one or two things differently this year, just to support their child's Hindu identity, what would you want those two things to be, one or two things to be, and how can they connect with the Hindu Parent Network, HPN, to start with?
So I think this is where I would say they should attend our Conscious Hindu Parenting workshop. We've been running things for, I think, this is going to be a sixth year where we will host this. So it's been going on, and whoever participate in that workshop, they will have all the outline regarding the challenges we are facing as a Hindu parents in the diaspora, as well as the solution. It's not just challenges, but the solution they can have. So this is a really great starting point for anyone coming across Hindu Parents Network, or anyone wants to just do something differently then next year. And second, I would say, of course, take this thing seriously.
Sorry, before you move on to the second point, you mentioned that there is this workshop, Hindu Parenting Network, Conscious Hindu Parenting Network, right? Would you be able to provide any link, or is it available on the website so that our viewers, they know about it and they can connect to that?
Absolutely, yeah. So we host it every quarter. So we just had it last week, and then now it's going to be in, I believe, in February or March, and website should be updated with the new information very soon.
Sounds good. Thank you. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Please continue.
No, that's fine. Yeah, and then the second thing I would say is that whatever we discuss, don't think that it is happening in corner. We have seen that no matter how your child is, no matter how much care you are taking by yourself, there is need for, community approach. There is need for coming together, and there is also need for understanding what is happening around you, because that's not just that cannot happen by yourself. I mean, you cannot be equipped enough to handle all those challenges. So it is better to come together as a community and address those challenges, including what we refer as the social media device overuse challenges, or identity and value perspective, where how the children are getting affected without or due to lack of grounding in their uh, Hindu identity, and also the social media usage disadvantage, like attention, lack of attention span, and uh, the 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 impact it can have on their cultural grounding.
Absolutely. You have covered a lot of ground, social media, bullying, this identity crisis, and then also providing the potential parents with parents having these potential issues with resources, workshops, etc. So, really, thank you so much. And we would definitely like to have you back, because I don't think that just these answers, these questions, will be enough for parents. I'm sure they will have a lot more questions about your Hindu Parents Network. But in wrapping up, it's clear that the Hindu Parent Network is playing a crucial role in fostering a sense of belonging and support among the families. And through also collaboration, shared values, we can nurture our children's education, their cultural identity. So, as Yagnesh, you rightly said, it's not just about academic success. It's about instilling a strong moral foundation and helping our children to navigate through their unique paths, without losing their own identity. So, together, we are not only celebrating our heritage, but we are also preparing the next generation to thrive in a diverse world. So, thank you so much for being a part of this enriching dialogue, and hope to see you both soon again in Bharat on Bharat TV. Thank you, viewers. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.